Hello, everybody, and welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Autzen Audibles podcast. I'm your host, Jared Mack, and today is a very special day. It happens once a year. We have Oregon baseball head coach Mark Wasikowski on the podcast. Waz, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Let's see. So last year, you guys 40 win season, back-to-back 40 win seasons, first time since I think 2013, 2014 for this program. You get to the super regional against Texas A&M. Unfortunately, you guys, lose some contributors, the Bennett Thompsons, Bradley Mullins, RJ Gordons, Brock Moores. Just how do you feel like you guys have kind of retooled here for this upcoming season, this 56 game schedule that you guys have in here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a successful season for sure. Losing a couple of really key guys, Bennett, tough makeup kid, Southern Oregon kid, love him. Bryce Betcher, same deal, tough makeup kid. And the arms that you even said, those are really good human beings too. And so they were talented. They helped us win, and they were just good people, good locker room, good culture people. So, that's the first thing is no matter who we bring in here, no matter who you want to talk about, and there's some good names to talk about. We've been able to address a lot of the, departures with new arrivals. Okay, well, but are they still going to be able to not only just answer the bell on the field, but are they going to be able to fill in those gaps now that those players you mentioned leave behind in that locker room and clubhouse? And so that's something we won't know until we get going. And biggest emphasis we have right now is team and developing that team and developing the culture of that locker room in the way that has worked for us here now. And we've seen that grow at Oregon baseball now for several years. Last year and the year before we're real close to getting College World Series, a little bit more pitching depth, a little bit more of a productive at bat here and there. And I think we're there. Clearly, we're that close, and yet we think maybe on paper we have on talent-wise, the best group of talent that we've maybe ever had in the program. But Tom will tell on that. They got to play well together. Talent doesn't mean that they're going to win. They got to come together in that locker room.
There's been an influx in people who are interested in this program over the last couple of years because of your guys' success. You guys just keep winning. Who are some of those new addition names for people who, are either just coming into last year and aren't, not familiar with the rollover process, or people who are just jumping on the bandwagon this year ahead of your first year in the Big Ten? Who are some of those names do you feel like either they take a step up or they're incoming transfers or whatever the case is?
Yeah, so that'll be a fun discussion. So position side of it, there's some really good new guys that have come in. There's a couple of freshmen that are really really good. Burke Mavius, Cohen Nikolai, two really skilled freshmen. Burke is a switch hitter. Cohen Nikolai is a right-handed hitter. Young kids. Jax Jimenez, a young kid, really skilled players, like highly skilled players, can really hit big time offensive players. Really good. Parker Stinson, really good player, transfer in from Indiana State, had big numbers at Indiana State last year. Indiana State, for the people that don't know, they've been very, very good. And when I was even in the Midwest at Purdue, I felt like Indiana State's coaching staff did probably the best job in that entire region, coaching their guys and being physical and really being the toughest team to beat. And Parker comes from that program. We're blessed to have those guys jump in and join us, right? On the pitching side of it, the biggest probably catch of the portal deal was Jason Wrights. He's a right-handed arm. He's somewhere between 6'9", or if you believe the fishermen out there with their fish stories, he might be 7'4" or whatever. I don't know. He's tall and he's really good. He can run the fastball up there in the mid to upper 90s. He should be an extremely high prospect when it comes to scouting boards and maybe even a day one draft this coming year. He's joined our program. He's tremendous. There's a couple of other transfers that we've got. A kid named Santiago Garcia, who comes in from Central Arizona Community College, he's a left-handed pitcher. He's a sophomore, highly skilled pitcher that should add us some serious depth in that on that pitching staff. And then, probably the best freshman up to this point in time is a kid named Will Sanford, a highly skilled pitcher. And our freshman class of pitchers is is really good. Coach Hawksworth's got some real options in that thing, and should have some fun developing those young guys. But Will Sanford is a guy who's got a lot of pitchability, and he throws the ball really hard with good secondary stuff. He's been in big games, and so those are three of the new pitching names that you'll see.
You mentioned it there for a second, but when you were in the Midwest at Purdue, I just want to know your thoughts on the schedule. It's obviously your guys' first year in the Big Ten. You got some lengthy road trips coming up. You got some midweek games, and you're playing Georgetown, I think it is, right, on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Just what do you feel like that experience is going to be like, and how do you use your your previous experience at Purdue, where it's a bit more distance traveled than, and try to help you guys going into the year?
First off, you're trying to schedule people that have won a lot of games in the past. And so any of the teams that we put on our schedule traditionally are going to win north of 30 games and be vying for their league championships. And so that's why, whether it's pre-league or even midweek games, when we go and we play at Kent State on a road trip during our spring break, we'll go and we'll play at Kent State. Those guys, tremendous program that Coach Duncan's developed there. And for us, we're playing against schools that are traditionally in the regionals and traditionally winning north of 30. Georgetown, same kind of deal. We're sticking around after we play Maryland on Friday, Saturday, Sunday till we're going to play them on a Monday because they've got a tremendous program. They're winning over 30 games. That's going to help us with the RPI. Distance on the road. Yeah, there's further distance. Credit to our administration for being proactive and understanding to be a student athlete with that kind of distance, wear and tear on the body. Traveling through commercial airports is probably not even feasible to do when it comes to how we need to get places, getting there, being able to practice the day before the series. Administrations recognize that, and they're chartering flights for us. Not all flights. We could sure use every single flight chartered because of the stresses, and that's going to be a goal for us to be had moving forward. But right now the administration has given us some chartered flights. It's clearly going to help us and minimize travel impact. So we like our schedule that we have. We have 36 home contests for people to be able to come out to PK Park and watch our team. Our attendance over the last couple of seasons is up over 500% at PK Park, largely because of Jared Mack, to be honest with you, because of the support that Jared Mack has been the most consistent media member out there. And this isn't just stroking Jared Mack, it's a fact. And so the facts are with Mack, and he's there. Sometimes he doesn't say the best things because that's what we put out there. If we put out something that doesn't look great, he's probably going to tell you it didn't look great. And he's an honest reporter, and we respect that. But Jared, we appreciate the fact that you've been out there each and every day and supporting our program through media interest that hopefully we've earned that right to have, and we thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, Waz. I will say it's definitely not because of me that you guys your attendance is up 500%. You guys keep winning, keep doing the job. But again, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to go kind of back into the Big Ten scheme of things, and again, for people who are just joining on either with the program or, I'm sure a lot of people haven't been watching too much Big Ten baseball recently. What is that conference kind of like, and how can, I don't know, is there just like an overall theme to the conference? Is it pitcher heavy, hitter heavy, or is it just a good combination of some talented teams out there in the Midwest?
Yeah, great question. Always felt a couple of constants. Number one, Big Ten baseball, you're going to have some wind. It gets windy in the Midwest, and you're going to need to deal with, on one of those 3 days, it's going to be windy. Early season, it can be cold. From the middle of the year on, it's baseball and it's beautiful. It's great. There's no issues whatsoever. And, early season, we aren't necessarily taking trips east. And so we've minimized weather impact. For me, the Big Ten has always been a very physical conference. You got some guys that can really bang the baseball. And there's always some really high-end talent on the mound. The complaint, and the Big Ten is going to need to address this. The one complaint has been, do you have the depth throughout the pitching staffs of the Big Ten that other conference, like specifically the SEC, has? That's got to be something that Big Ten conference and schools individually in the league look at and address themselves. I've always felt like there's really high-end arms. Michigan State's got one of the highest end left-handed arms in the entire country, pitching for them on Fridays this year. Jake's club at Michigan State, and they've got that kind of arm in there. I've always felt, though, that throughout the conference, whether it's Maryland or Indiana or Michigan or Nebraska, there's several teams that have had high-end talent, very high-end talent in the league. And now I think that you're going to see some more high-end talent with UCLA joining the league, Oregon, Washington, and USC. USC I haven't heard much about so far in the preseason, and that's a huge miss. UCLA I haven't heard much about in the preseason, and that's a huge miss. 2 years after they had the #1 recruiting class in the country, and those kids are all still on campus. Those are two programs that are really well coached, outstanding programs, and now they're in the Big Ten Conference. And so you take two of the historically best programs out of the Pac-12, put them in any league with us as well. You're talking about a pretty good insertion into that new league, and it's going to elevate the conference. There's no doubt.
You guys return 8 of 9 offensive starters from that A&M Super Regional last year. The only guy who's not returning is Bryce Betcher, who's returning to go play football another year as a linebacker for Dan Lanning. How do you handle picking through that offensive depth that you guys have established with the 8 of 9 returners? You mentioned Parker Stinson, Burke Mabius, Cohen Nikolai, like guys who are Jack Brooks, another guy, like real contributors last year or potential real contributors down the line with so many returners. How do you kind of manage that offensive depth this year?
Best guys play. You go off of body of work, sure, but best guys play. Because I was a starter last year, Coach, that's why I should be starting this year. Kind of a thin line of reasoning, especially if somebody has passed you. If that's your line of reasoning, it's not going to work. You got to continuously show that you're the best guy. And if you are the best guy, then you're going to get those opportunities and you're going to play. We don't have a contract with anybody on this team that says, hey, you're assured to be a starter. You're assured to have 150 at-bats or whatever. That doesn't, and I hope it doesn't ever exist in our game. It clearly doesn't exist in our game right now at the University of Oregon. And best guy plays, And so we just are encouraging our guys to play winning baseball, and the guys that we feel like are going to get on the field and help us win a ball game, those are the guys that are going to get the majority of the reps. And boy, it's a battle because there are some kids that are flat out good out there right now, and some of them are old, some of them are new to the program. But bottom line is there's a lot of good ones, and you even hit on Jack Brooks. Jack Brooks has done a tremendous job of getting himself prepared to play at this level. He went off. He had a slow start to his summer in the California League, went off for the second half, went off this fall, and so far this spring he started off very well. It's a name you're not really accustomed to. Wasn't starting in a super regional at A&M, but still yet, boy, he's fast. He's got power. He brings a lot to the table, and he's an exciting player.
This is year 5 for you now at Oregon, if we were going to count the COVID, the pandemic.
Six. You got to count COVID, even though it didn't happen.
You got to count it. All right, we'll count it. So it's year 6. I want to ask you, this is maybe too general of a question, but I'll ask it anyway. Just where do you feel like the program has grown in your 6 years here, considering from where you started, and we can throw in the COVID season as well, but just from where you started to where it is now, and you could take any path in this. I'll make this even more open-ended. Just where do you feel like the program has grown the most under you?
Well, it's kind of without getting wordy, I appreciated, the program in the past, it started in 2009, right? That's it. It started in 2009 after a long gap. And so that 2009 period up until when I took the job, there were some times where this program was literally in the top 3 in the entire country in terms of number of games won. And so that needs to be said, because it wasn't like the program was just a terrible program and, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden they're good. No, it just, they hit a speed bump and we needed to get them back on track. And I think we've been able to do that now. We haven't been able to get the program to the College World Series yet. There's been a couple opportunities now. But yet, did I feel like in the first couple of years, 4 years, we would be in the College World Series? Clearly hope so, because that's the goal. And I'm clearly not disappointed of the progress we've made. Our culture of our program is strong. The players enjoy to be at the ballpark every single day and play like it. They give the fans value for their buck. We talk about that a lot. If I'm coming here and I'm working my tail off and I'm going to pay money to bring my family to the game, are we going to give that family something to really say, yeah, that was worth it? That was awesome. We had fun, and that was worth my buck. I worked my ass off all week, and now all of a sudden I get a chance to go to PK Park, and I spend the money to be able to bring my kids, my wife there. Was it worth it? The answer better be absolutely, or else we are failing on that field. We got to change something. We talk about that a lot. We want to give our fans a tremendous value for what they're doing when they're coming and spending their bucks at the park. And I think we've been able to do that clearly. Number of home runs we hit is way up. It's an exciting team to watch. I think we're able to win baseball games in a variety of ways. So we play with a balance. If we need to bunt, win a game by moving runners old school style and knocking them in with a hit, we've been able to prove that we can do that. We've been able to prove that we can hit the ball over the fence, score a lot of runs that way. And we haven't been able to prove yet that we can get to the College World Series and then play for a national championship. And that's next on our goal set. But I'm not disappointed in the least bit about what we've got in this program too. And I'm excited with the guys to be able to continue to grow this thing, which I think we've shown we've done.
All right. We are going to take a quick little break here from the Autzen Audibles podcast. We'll be back in a second. All right, we are back. If you're watching us on video, we just sat here for a second. If you're listening, I hope you enjoyed the ad. We are back here with head coach of the baseball team, Mark Wasikowski. Again, thank you, Waz, for coming on the podcast. Always means a lot. Very excited for the baseball season once again. First year in the Big Ten for these guys. Here's a good one for you. Past two seasons, obviously, super regional losses, one to ORU and last year to Texas A&M. How have those losses changed you as a coach, or potentially changed how or your philosophy and off-season acquisitions? Just how have those losses kind of changed you as a head coach?
Good question. Specifically, the most obvious is our pitching has been at a level to be able to get to a super regional and not advance through. So addressing that issue is number one. Number two is making sure that you have perspective that even though it's disappointing with not being able to get to College World Series and losing those two super regionals, to get to a super regional is really hard in college baseball. And now we've been able to do that, and we're finishing inside the top 15 now for the last couple of seasons. And so even though we want more, to not be grumpy with the progress we've made would be the second lesson that I've learned. And the third thing that I'd tell you is real simple. Continue to just do what you can today, right? The most disappointing things about that super regional this past season was the fact that there were literally several pitchers that were just not even available because of sickness and other things. When we were at the super regional at Texas A&M that we never even got to. And that was disappointing. And so for me, I look at it and I go, all right, how do we not be in that position in the future to where we have ample bullets on the mound, or ample bullets in the batter's box to where we don't come up short with our personnel? And that's just flat out, to be honest with you, it's work ethic on the recruiting trail, identifying the right kind of players, and now it's donors. Because donors are now in a huge part of what we're doing to be able to retain a roster for NIL money and also to be able to acquire talent. And to call it like it is, you need good players to win. You need good players that want to play for the team to win. And at this point in time, with how the things laid out there, NIL is a big deal, and that's helping acquire players or retain players. And so donors have become a massive part. And so the third thing I would say is really spending time with donors to where we can have that type of financial support to where we can build our roster to hopefully get to the College World Series. Those are the biggest three takeaways.
You guys have earned a lot of preseason love this year. I think Division I baseball had you at the highest at number 12, and in my brief little history check, that's the highest in some time. What does that mean for the program, as well as some individual guys? Will Sanford, you mentioned him earlier, picked as the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and then Mason DeVille, outfielder, who was selected for a preseason All Big Ten team. Just what does that kind of preseason recognition mean to you guys, especially considering the last few years that just hasn't really been a thing for your program?
Well, again, that's the balance you got to have. I think the guys in the locker room are looking at it going, that's way too low. We're better than that. I think that's their first takeaway. I know that's their first takeaway, and that's fine. And I look at it and I say, the preseason polls, there's a little bit of a mix in those preseason polls, because there's such a confusion on what everybody out there actually has on their roster and what that means towards rankings. And so with the confusion of the turnover of everybody's roster in conjunction with, there's just historically teams that are going to be ranked higher because they're just going to be ranked higher. Great example, LSU. I think they're ranked really, really high this year. They were ranked really, really high last year. They won a national championship the previous year, and yet last year at the end of the year in the top 25, they're not in it.
Right.
And so, yeah, the polls are awesome. I want to be number one in the poll at the start and at the end of the year. I believe in that, and so I'm not going to say polls don't mean anything. I think they do. I think they're a reflection of a lot of things with your program. And I like the fact that we're being recognized as one of the top 15s in the entire country now, preseason as well as postseason. But at the same point in time, I want a number one next to our name. And that number one needs to be earned through doing it every single year, right? And then doing it on the baseball field where you win those games, you win the last game. And so, how does a team like LSU, great example, Jay's a good friend of mine at LSU, tremendous program. How do they win a national championship, then get ranked really, really high in the top couple the next year, and then they don't finish in the top 25? There's evidence right there. You got to earn it every single year. And it doesn't matter what you did a previous year. It doesn't matter what the preseason rankings are. You could use it as fire or whatever you want to use it as. It really is at the start of the season. Those polls are for the media and the fans. And then you get to see how the dust settles. And so those teams that are the most hungry teams are going to end up at the top of college baseball. And, that's our goal. Our goal is to win the College World Series. We got to get to the College World Series. There's steps you need to get through and advance through. We've been able to show that we can get to the regional round. We've been able to show that we can get to the super regional round. And now it's the next round that we're trying to get to. But, those things are well in front of us. It's today that matters. And so nailing today is going to be the emphasis on what our team's looking at right now. And the focus on our program literally is, what are we going to do about it today? And today started last night. So, we've gotten off to a great start today with a fantastic breakfast as a team. And now it's just our job to continue to build on that.
All right. I got some rapid fire ones for you here. Well, maybe not
I,
too rapid fire, but maybe some dumb questions just to, just why not? All right, let me hear your pregame routine. I don't know if we've ever gotten into this. What do you do with pregame?
get in early. I think I do media 5 hours before a game. I work out 6.5 hours before a game. And then let's see, 6.5 hours workout, 5 hours media, and then inside of 5 hours, it's staff meeting, writing lineup out, and then we get out to the field. 3 hours before a game is when we do our stretch, and so there'll be some early work before our team stretch 3 hours before a game. But then once we get into team stretch 3 hours before the game, then it's 2.5 hours before the game is when batting practice starts. That takes an hour. The opposing team hits for 40 minutes as long as we're at home. Then there's a 5-minute field breakdown. Then we take a
Now we're
10-minute
just getting
infield
into
outfield. They take a 10-minute infield outfield. There's a breakdown right there of the field as well from post infield outfield. We do pre-series positional or pregame positional meetings and hitters meetings at that point. We take pride in the anthem because we do live in the greatest country in the world, and we like to represent our flag, even though it's got its quirks in our country. We do represent the fact that this is our choice to live in our country, and we're going to represent that the right way. And we're excited about that fact that we get to live here. And so we want to show that for the anthem, and then we get to tee it up. We want to show the fans that we're going to show up ready to play, give them the dollar for their buck that they really have worked to earn, and walk away from PK Park that day going, man, that was a fun day. And so if we can do that every day, that's pregame, game, and then post-game routines. It's back to debrief. It's back to breaking down what we did good, bad, and what the teaches are to where we can improve upon everything we're doing.
You have any superstitions? I
No.
mean, no, not at all, really. I'm surprised to hear that. I feel like a ton of baseball people always have superstitions. Put on their left sock first, anything like that. Oh, I'm surprised. All right. What's probably your most listened to song in your workout routine? What do you got?
Good question. Jim Queely, Steely Dan, Revolution. I'm all over the grid, man. I like
All
country
right.
music. Just anything that hits me. I'm a podcast guy. I'll listen to all kinds of stuff, things that piss me off, things that I agree with. I don't really care. I think it's all entertainment, and I'll listen to anything. And regardless whether I agree or disagree with it, I love it.
You're a podcast guy while working out?
Yeah, sometimes I'll listen to any of
Oh,
it.
wow. All right. Next one. What's your favorite place in town for food? Could be high end, can be, McDonald's down the road. What's your favorite place to go for food?
Mm. Yeah, top four, not in any particular order. North Fork Shrimp and Grits, unbelievable,
Good one.
great meal, fantastic breakfast. North Fork restaurant. Beppe and Gianni's, obviously Beppe and Gianni over there, Italian food, tremendous. Kennedy Steakhouse, new in town. Mark Byram,
Mm,
owner of that. Him and Carla, fantastic people, awesome steak, probably the best steak in town. And then, Fisherman's Market, just good old Eugene. Awesome fresh fish. Grab a craft beer, have some fresh fish. Those are the top four.
I've not been to the steakhouse, but I can agree with all the others. Those are all some good picks. And then lastly, was I know you're kind of a health nut. You take care of yourself. I see you working out there, 5 hours before the game. What is your dessert of choice? What's your guilty pleasure dessert? Or is it dessert? Is it a bag of chips? What's your guilty pleasure item? Really good day. You ended off even better.
I don't know. I'm kind of the same. I'm a little boring. My wife's the glue. Lori Joe's fantastic. She kind of just is the same thing I eat every day. It's two poached eggs and oatmeal. It's the same type of sandwich and soup for lunch, and then dinner's a little bit of a varying thing where it's either pasta, fish, chicken, or steak. It's not really too exciting, and I don't have a bunch of guilty pleasures. If anything, homemade popcorn, man. Love to get the popcorn
There
out
you go.
and cook it on the stove, and away we go. That's legit.
I love it. All right. That'll do it for us here at the Autzen Audibles podcast. Thank you all for listening. Once again, Waz, thank you for coming on the pod. You can catch Waz and the baseball team at PK Park February 14th. That's just over 2 weeks from now, starting at 4 o'clock Pacific time as part of their 56 game schedule ahead of their first season in the Big Ten. So thank you all for listening.